want to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something. Completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.
Are you ready, Gareth? Are you ready? Right.
Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm recording now.
Okay, hello.
This is Joe Pugh for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast, joined here at the BT Studios in Stratford by a familiar face, Mr. Gareth A. Davies. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. How was your New Year, Christmas?
Can't remember anymore, but it was good. It was quiet, thank God. It was quiet. It was lovely. I went to the sun for a few days. Wanted to get 2022 out of the way. It wasn't the happiest year I think we've ever had in boxing. Let's not go over it all. I've been over that with Umar, yeah, really great to get started again. And what a great start with here at BT Sports Studios. First press conference.
Before we go any further, I just want to see. We can just see it in the camera. What is that on your back? It looks like a sword. What is that on your back?
That, my friend, clearly is a Victorian antique umbrella used in the days of Bartitsu, as it's called, which is a form of martial art. Francis Warren will know about Bartitsu. You know about Bartitsu, the martial art used by Sherlock Holmes? He's asking me on IFL TV what this is. This is, I'm not going to say it's a sword, but it could be a sword. It's an antique umbrella. But it is, there we go, this is my dry cleaning. But it is actually an antique journalistic. But it's an umbrella. It's an umbrella, but it's an antique Victorian umbrella. But it could be a weapon from the ancient art. Look it up, of Bartitsu, because when you actually do pull this out, there's a little sword in there. Used by, though, what?
I don't really know what to say to that.
It's true. It's Bartitsu as a martial art used by Sherlock Holmes. They used the cape, they used the sword in the umbrella, they used all kinds of things, chains. That's why I carry. That's why I got the chain. You know, choke out with the chain, head kick. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, let's get to the boxing. Just a little TED talk from Gareth A. Davies, little history lesson there. But let's get to the boxing.
Mini TED talk, yeah.
There we go. Let's get to the reason why we're here today. It's the official announcement of Moses Atuma turning professional, so young at the age of 18. There's very big expectations on this man's head. If you're in boxing, you've heard about him. A fantastic prospect, and it's fantastic for Queensberry and Francis to sign him.
Absolutely. Look, they've eschewed going to Commonwealth Games and Olympics. I spoke to his coach Dan, who's known him since he was 9, and it was the decision was all from Moses that he didn't particularly want to do Commonwealth Games, didn't want to try and get into the Olympic team. Obviously, we know there's problems behind the scenes with 2028 in the Los Angeles Olympics with boxing in it at the moment. It's not on the program at the moment. It's a phenomenal thing. They set the target of beating Mike Tyson's record of the youngest heavyweight champion in the world ever, 20 years, 4 months, 22 days. That's a massive target. But if he turns pro on the 28th, on the undercard of Yard and Beterbiev and Yard, by May 2025. He will have had 16, 17 fights, and we'll know by then how good he is in the pros. We know that he's been sparring people like Joe Joyce since he was like 15, running out of school, year 11, you'll remember, running out of year 11, running down the gym to spar with Joe Joyce. That's unheard of. He's a huge specimen. I've interviewed the chap myself this morning. He's a fantastic guy. You've seen the footage. He looks amazing. He's got a great amateur pedigree. Obviously, he hasn't done the elite level stuff yet. There's huge risks involved turning pro at this age with this little experience. But listen, that's the world we live in. Take your opportunities. He's got his brother Carol, who's 4 years older. Carol at home, obviously, we know about 9-0 as a pro. He's got him in the background advising him, getting him out of bed in the morning for early morning runs, kind of thing you need. And you missed that, didn't you?
No, well, I thought I'd ignore it, but if we want to go into that...
No, we don't need to. I'm sure you're on it. But you know, it's going to be an amazing journey to follow. It's exciting. It feels exciting. It's great turnout for him here today. And look, we will see him incrementally grow. I think Tyson Fury really rates him. Obviously Frank Warren does, and Francis Warren does, who's managing him and promoting him. Frank Warren promoting him, Francis Warren managing him. Look, we're having a halcyon period for heavyweights in the UK, so it's a massive opportunity for him to jump on that gravy train at the moment. By the time he comes through as a formidable fighter, he's going to be just ready for a world title.
We're just picking this back up as Gareth had to go and do some work of his own. He's not just a star on IFL TV, he's actually got to do some of his own work sometimes.
I want to be Gareth A. Davis, not Gareth Numbers Davis anymore. So if you don't watch me anymore on IFL because they keep calling me Numbers, yeah. I've got nothing good to say. I've got nothing interesting to say. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm done with this show.
We know you love the numbers. We know you love the numbers.
No, you love the numbers. I didn't get anything out of the numbers. You're the ones that love. Let's not get into a numbers debate. Otherwise, I'll get on the Porky train again.
Do you want to divulge, or should we leave that?
No, leave it alone.
Okay. Well, I know you spoke to Umar about the heavyweight division and just everything evolving around that a couple of days ago, but I just want to get your thoughts on it coming out today about the IBF are no longer going to get in the way of the Undisputed fight happening. Was that just to be expected, or were you surprised they come out with that statement?
You're talking about Fury and Usyk now?
Yeah, the Undisputed fight.
I'm not surprised at all. I think the key is most people want to see an undisputed fight. It would be so good for boxing. We're very close, we understand, to the fight being done. I spoke to Frank Warren last weekend, middle of last week, and he said contracts were being exchanged. That interview ran out on TalkSport on Saturday night. TalkSport ran it as an exclusive, but it was an interview I did with Frank Warren last week. It's fantastic to hear that contracts have been exchanged or exchanging. It won't take much to get it over the line. Both men want the fight. I'm sure they're just waiting for a site fee to come from the Middle East. We understand it is going there. It'll be a big, big fight. And I understand the IBF stepping sideways to let that happen. It's a very important fight to set up the year. The last couple of years we've been teased too much by fights. We were teased for a month again last year with Fury and Joshua, and we need these very big fights. It's one of the biggest fights. Well, it's the richest fight in the world, frankly, and everything filters down from heavyweights downwards. It sets up potential year for Joe Joyce, all those things. It needs to be made, and we need it in the first third of this year. I think it's brilliant they've stepped aside, the IBF.
Do you think a lot of those top heavyweights, Joe Joyce including, the top echelons just outside of Fury and Usyk, are kind of waiting to see what happens if that fight does go ahead or not before they can plan their own moves?
No, I think Anthony Joshua will fight a top 15 opponent. I understand it's the Australian who's in the mix. Again, I spoke about that a few days ago. Dempsey McKean. Potentially. I don't have any issue with him having a warm-up fight. He's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. He's put heart and soul into that second Usyk fight. I was there live. I thought he did a brilliant job on the night. Just didn't have quite enough to do it. He needs his star to rise again this year. Get a 3-4 round knockout. That's what I expect him to do against that guy. Have a tune-up fight. Fight Dillian Whyte in the summer. That's a stadium fight. Joshua White 2 is a stadium fight, no question about it. Would love to be at that, would love that fight to be made. And then they make a decision on where he is for later in the year. Deontay Wilder's floating around, he will have fought Andrew Ruiz by then if he's beaten Ruiz. Joe Joyce will have fought an opponent by then. There's so many big fights to be made in 2023, and I think the key is Joshua goes down that lane, Joe Joyce goes down his lane, Tyson Fury and Usyk go down their lane, everyone else fits in. Frank Sanchez is around, he's a heavyweight I really rate. I'd love to see him fight Joe Joyce. I think that's a fantastic fight, that's an 0-2 sellout. It's a great year, and we're here at the launch of this young man whose name's up in lights today, Moses Atoma, his brother Carol, of course. can't remember a period in the last 3 decades when heavyweight boxing was this strong in this country. It's a fantastic time to be involved.
Just moving on, you didn't speak to Umar about Conor Benn. He's been active on social media more frequently over the past week or so. It's looking like he's confident that he'll be fighting at least within the next 6 months, definitely in 2023. Just your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's jumping ahead. I think, a 270-page report, as I revealed on the other side of the year, last year, speaking to Mauricio Suleiman, they've had that report. The findings from that aren't out yet. He hasn't been cleared by them. He hasn't been cleared by UKAD and the Boxing Board of Control. All right, maybe he's going to box under another licence. That's what they seem to be hinting, that it could be a fight abroad. I've spoken to Chris Eubank Jr. in the last couple of weeks as well, and he still wants that fight. He's got to come through Liam Smith. Obviously, that's a fantastic and very interesting fight later on this month. He's got to clear his name first. Obviously, he's optimistic, but obviously he's going to be boxing somewhere else then, because we need clearance from Boxing Board of Control and UKAD. He surrendered his licence to them, so I think that's jumping ahead. Obviously, they need to be optimistic. We want to see him back in action. I want to see him clear his name, but let's see it first. July last year, so 7 months ago, he did his first failed drugs test for clomiphene. And we need a resolution and an end to it so that he can move onwards and we can all move onwards.
Do you think we should be ruling out then that his next fight will be in the UK?
No, we can't rule that out because he might be cleared by the Boxing Board of Control and UKAD. We can't. I'm not ruling out anything. I want him to get his resolution. I want him to clear his name if he can clear his name. He's always protested his innocence and that the 2 tests were from contaminated substances, from contaminated tests. I don't wish any ill on the young man, but my whole thing was the whole time that fight should have been pulled as soon as they knew there was a positive test, or there should have been transparency. That's what we need this year. We need more transparency.
Just last one on that one then. Do you think there's a sense of overconfidence from Eddie Hearn and Matchroom that they might put him on a Matchroom global show, maybe whether that's in Italy, Spain, US, and do you think they might be jumping the gun?
No, they're just doing what they're doing, which is they're promoting their guy. I mean, if you're trying to put me in direct row mode with Eddie Hearn again, I can repeat what I've said before, which is I thought they should have pulled the fight originally. I have no beef with Eddie, other than that I don't believe they did the right thing as a correspondent in giving that narrative. There was a huge pall cast over boxing last year because the wider world couldn't understand why a fight was still proceeding, even in the hours after the Boxing Board of Control had said they couldn't sanction it in the interests of boxing, that the promoters wanted to continue with it. And, there was a narrative that there was wealth over health being put out there, and you can't do that with boxing. You've got to, I hope we've learnt from it, you can't hide those things. They need to be out, transparent, hearing in public, or as public as you can make it. And not putting the sport at the risk of you can, I say it again, we can be legally killed in a ring. It's a very dangerous, inherently dangerous sport, and we have to think about the safety of the athletes ahead of the earning capacity of the athletes. And it was a very rich fight, and it was one we all wanted to see, we were all excited by, but because of what went on in the background, it should have been halted straight away. I hope he clears his name. I hope he fights this year. But they will fight at middleweight if they do fight. That's what Chris Eubank Jr. has told me and probably a million other people.
Last one. Yesterday we got the announcement of Wood Lara. It was meant to happen late last year, but then we saw Lee Wood got an injury. There was doubt whether that fight would happen. And it's got over the line. I think it's a fight many people want to watch in Nottingham. I'm certainly looking forward to it. I'm sure you are.
Oh, yeah. It's a bing bang boom fight, isn't it? You can't see anything other than these two guys going toe to toe. Both heavy-handed, both dangerous. You know, we saw what Lee Wood did last year, coming back against Michael Connell in the 12th round. Probably fight of the year, most people's fight of the year. I think it was my fight of the year in the end. I think Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor was my event of the year. I think it was. Can't remember now. Yeah, I mean, it's stylistically, it's a fantastic style to make fights. Fantastic fight. Can't argue with it. Really looking forward to it myself as well. It's a dangerous fight for Lee Wood because he gets heavily involved, and obviously he was hurt early in that Conlon fight, and he's been in some bruises. But Ben Davies will have a great plan for him. Yeah, can't wait to see it.
Gareth, thank you very much for speaking to IFL TV. Let's see if you do some more numbers, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Always a pleasure.
Cheers.
I'm going to share something with you that might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something. Completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.